Chelsea, yes, our Chelsea, are now champions of the entire world, thanks to this man here, Chelsea manager Enzo Maresca, who won 2 trophies this year. But how did he do it? We discuss in today's video. Cue the intro. What's going on, YouTube? It is Repulse, back in another video. I know y'all saw that intro. I do hope you enjoy this one. It is our tactical review about the Club World Cup final where Chelsea beat PSG 3-0. We are discussing how did PSG beat Chelsea, how did Chelsea beat PSG 3-0 actually. I think it's just the Blue Co favor, Strasbourg beat them last in Europe, we beat them last intercontinentally. So, Blue Co has their name written on PSG's front door, and they're pretty scared of us. But yeah, we're gonna figure out how exactly Chelsea decided to play against PSG to, beat them 3-0. So yeah, let's just dive straight into it. With how did Chelsea line up? We had Robert Sanchez, and then we had a back four, which was pretty much a back three of Chalobah, Colwill, and Cucurella. Then we had a midfield three of Reece James, Caicedo, and Enzo Fernandez. And then we had a front four of Gusto, which I actually predicted, and you're about to see the clip of that right now. Reece James playing the midfield, and Malo Gusto play at right back. That's also an option, which, excuse me. I would say that I'm not in favor of, but the way he played last game, if he plays like that against PSG, he does have the pace to, excel. And I think that could be a viable option if you don't want Reece James basically cooking his hamstrings against PSG. You could play him in the midfield and allow Malo Gusto to fly around the pitch. I wouldn't be opposed to that, actually, now that I think about it. Then we basically had Palmer come in from this right-hand side, tucking at the 10, Pedro Neto playing the left wing, and then João Pedro linking up top at striker. So then, how did PSG end up lining up? We'll see that we see Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Doué, Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, and João Neves making that midfield three. Nuno Mendes, Beraldo, Marquinhos, Hakimi, and then Donnarumma. So I got their lineup pretty much spot on in my tactical analysis preview. I perfectly predicted their lineup, and then I kind of predicted this. I didn't predict it. I did have Lavia in there, and then Reece James playing right back. But I did say Malo Gusto was a possibility. But yeah, for PSG, I pretty much predicted their entire side and what they were exactly going to do. You had Fabian Ruiz playing in the most advanced midfielder role. You had Vitinha kind of, being that deep-lying playmaker. João Neves making that back three. And then Nuno Mendes and Hakimi bombing up the pitch. But yeah. So how did Chelsea actually counter PSG is what we're talking about today. And the idea that we used was using our right-hand side versus their left-hand side. As you can see, it was predominantly Gusto and Palmer and Sanchez. That's why he was in there against Kvaratskhelia and Nuno Mendes. Fabian Ruiz and Beraldo, yes, they did have a role to play on that left-hand side, but just not much. So we're going to mainly talk about this right-hand side. And if you allow me, we are going to go to the tactical board where we have both squads from yesterday. You can see the ball is placed with Sanchez right now. We're just going to go to the selection tool. So if you want to see what the match actually looked like, we will space everyone out. You can see João Pedro was head on here. You had Cole Palmer pretty much man marking Beraldo. You had Gusto there. I guess I'll just put them where they were in the match. Put them in midfield. Kvaratskhelia very advanced. You had the midfield battle here. You had Doué against Cucurella. And then you had Hakimi versus Neto. You had Dembele pretty much against Colwill. I'd say Ruiz against Caicedo. You had Vitinha against Fernandez, and then you pretty much had the free man here. So you could have seen Neto do this, Caicedo do that, and Reece James do that, which is how we did end up man marking in this game. But you saw a lot of Neto tracking back on Hakimi, as well as Cucurella playing Hakimi, and then Caicedo, Reece James playing here, and not letting Doué come when Hakimi was this advanced. But for this model, we'll just go with this for right now. So yeah, let's say PSG are in possession. We'll say Fabian Ruiz has the ball. You normally see Caicedo like this. Obviously, PSG's line is going to be very advanced. You have this like front six type deal. With Vitinha and Neves not playing close behind, they do leave a lot of space. With Beraldo, Marquinhos just trusting. They play a pretty high line. You see Neves typically play right here, and Vitinha kind of like this. So there is that triangle midfield that I spoke about, but you'd see, you know, James here, Caicedo here, Neto here. We did man mark him throughout the entire game, so you'd see this, and then, you know, Fernandes and Palmer kind of here just floating around. If the ball goes to the center back, so let's say Ruiz just passes back, then Palmer, you know, pounces on that. But for now, we have Fabio and Ruiz with the ball in an advanced position. So what did we do to counter them? So let's say, you know, there was a chance that Kvaratskhelia had where, you know, defense, you know, all shifted. Dembele made a run here, so Cole was pretty much out the equation. Chalobah's head up, Doué was right here, and it was like this. And, you know, Doué ended up taking a shot, and Robert Sanchez saved. But how did we counter that? So, you know, we get back, PSG press. They were also man marking us the entire game. You see Fernandes and Palmer a little more advanced, but what you saw Robert Sanchez do was play this long ball down to Gusto. You had Mendes right here, you had Gusto right here, and you just see Gusto pretty much run the length of the pitch in front of Mendes. And then you have Beraldo having to get back, you'd have Neves having to get back, you'd have Marquinhos trying to get back, and then you have João Pedro, Palmer, Fernandes, and Neto making runs. So it pushes PSG back into like a back five kind of thing. If you want to man mark, you can see a lot of this. This was pretty much the main shape of the game yesterday. But yeah, you had Gusto give him the ball. With Nuno Mendes, obviously the first goal came like this, where Gusto played the ball here at Palmer, and Palmer, you know, shot past Donnarumma to make us go up 1-0. So yeah, this was our most effective, easily tactic of the night. Was playing down this right hand side, which is what, you know, Maresca, you could clearly see, ordered the team to do. But even in build up, you could see Reece James advance a little bit, Fernandes play a little bit back. You saw this a couple times. But you mainly saw Enzo Fernandez as the most advanced midfielder, forming this back three. But, you know, a lot of people ask, why did Maresca go man-to-man? It did work in the end, but, you know, it's very risky. Playing against PSG in their own game, we ended up doing it. We ended up being successful and winning 3-0. But, you know, people are asking, why did Maresca do this? Why did he set us up in this way? Why did he go man-to-man with, you know, teams that have all the pace in the world and, you know, three of the best man beaters in the world up front with Dembele, Colwill, or not Dembele and Colwill, excuse me, Dembele, Doué, and Kvaratskhelia. So, you know, why would it be man mark? And you can see this right here. Even if you want to push Mendes up, what you notice, if I go here, yeah, if you go here, you can see this area. This is what I want to focus on for the time being. We dominated the midfield the entire game, and even if you want, we can make this oval a little bit bigger to include their midfielder. Yeah, you see this. João Pedro dropped back a lot in defense. He did, but even if you want to take him out the equation, we just have our normal box midfield. We'll just say he's over here, or, you know, the line's pushed up, and then you have, you know, Neves pushed up, and then you just have João Pedro kind of playing here in between the center halves. But even if you want to play this oval, without João Pedro, you can see we have our box midfield, they have their triangle. What stands out is that, you know, we have the number advantage, and we have two of our best creators in this middle of the pitch with Palmer and Fernandes. I'm really glad that Maresca decided to put Palmer in his natural right-hand side pocket, because it was vital to the way that we wanted to play yesterday. But you can see here, even if I make lines, we can go here. We have this. Where'd my poly marker go? There we go. We have this. We have this. And then we have that. So these four were able to combine yesterday. Yeah, this is the box midfield that Maresca likes. And then if we, you know, the way we scored. Oh, let me try to get this oval out the way. Let me get this ball. Thank you. And, you know, the way we were most effective was playing with this box midfield. But obviously PSG are one of the best pressing sides in the world. So what we would do is, obviously, when they close down, you'd have Cucurella out here. You'd have Doué kind of playing in this area, this area, this area. You'd have Mendes and Hakimi coming up to make like this front five. Obviously, Vitinha and Ruiz man marking James and Caicedo, even if they dropped. So we'll get rid of all this, you know, shenanigans. if it allows me to. Hello? Why is that circle? Oh, that's the middle of the pitch. I'm dumb. I was confused why there was a circle there. Okay, so you'd see Caicedo and James drop into these pockets with this man marking. But what do you see here? You see that, you know, Chelsea have numbers forward to hit you. With Gusto, with Palmer, with Pedro, with Fernandez, with Neto. And Sanchez, who did a great job at this yesterday, would just play, if I get a line here, with this long ball around and up. It was curved, obviously, but he would play this long ball to Gusto, which would make everyone just having to rush back, get back in shape. And by that time, Gusto would be down this flank, and then you see, or even the second goal, you saw, I think Colwill, obviously your man marking, so, you know, Dembele dropped, Colwill was here, and it was something like this, where Chalobah and Cucurella were a little more tucked, and Gusto was a little bit more back, so it was kind of like this kind of back three, so you had Nuno Mendes kind of worrying about Gusto, because obviously the first goal came from there. And then you obviously had Ruiz, Vitinha here, and then you had Neves a little more advanced. I think Neto was like here for the second goal, and you know, we'll reenact this scenario. You had Berardo a little bit tucked, playing this back line, but what happened was Colwill picked up this ball, and if we get our line back again, we had Colwill play this ball, kind of around for Palmer to go chase. Palmer gets that ball, and then one of the best runs of the game. You had Beraldo here, you had Neves coming back, you had Marquinhos coming back, you had Mendes, Hakimi coming back. Palmer runs with this ball here, and then what you see if you watch the game back was João Pedro actually go and run this way, which allowed Beraldo to come that way, which caused Neves to go out. And then Palmer was able to just tuck it in again in that bottom left for that second goal of the game. And that's how Chelsea went 2-0 up, thanks to, you know, Maresca ball and Maresca tactics working in its full fruition. So we'll undo all of this. Oh, it doesn't let me. All right, we'll just set the team back up in their natural tactical shape, how they looked yesterday. So, you know, we'll move João Pedro here, Dembele here. This is both teams and you know how they played in their own possessions in their own half. If you want to look at it this way, it was pretty much Gusto playing right wing. Oh, whoa, where's Colwill? There. Colwill was at that center position. So yeah, if you want to make a note, you could say Chelsea won off of long balls, as well as beating PSG down the right hand. Oh, I guess you can understand what right means. Oh, nope. Let me go back there. So long balls and beating PSG down the right hand side is literally how we made all three goals. Even when Cole Palmer picked up the ball here, obviously PSG were advanced like this. You know, we played through their press. I think Mendes and Hakimi were like this, and João Pedro was, you know, here, and Fernandez was making these runs. So another thing I wanted to touch on actually was the way we pressed yesterday, which I'll do, but I wanted to reenact every single goal first. So you saw Palmer run with this ball here, just had acres of space, which caused everyone to drop back, but also everyone in Chelsea to advance. Obviously, we played with a higher line than, you know, most teams would against PSG. But you had PSG kind of making this little compact shape here. Obviously Neto was making runs down this way, which caused Hakimi to run this way, but Palmer had all the space in the world, which caused Beraldo to be like, hey, we need to close down on this. But João Pedro was like, all right, I'll just use that space. Palmer plays it through. João Pedro, you know, obviously gets his little dink over Donnarumma to make it 3-0. So again, a third goal of the first half created down that right hand side, which was very, very effective, obviously, and the key to success in that game. We understood how good PSG were at pressing. I think that was pretty much what everyone talked about this week, was how good PSG are, how good PSG can press. But no one focused on the Chelsea press, really, which kind of surprised me, because I was like, we're one of the best pressing teams in the world. Why wouldn't you want to, you know, see how we press? So what happened was we wanted the ball to get to Beraldo here. We'll just mark him. Yeah, we wanted the ball to come here. So what would happen is you don't want the ball to come to Neves, so we pretty much eliminated him, and then Marquinhos was also able to get the ball. Oh, what happened? Oh, I'm so dumb. I keep thinking these are actual. Okay, so we'll just say PSG are this way, just so I don't get confused. So what we do is we take out Neves. We try to get the ball to one of these two. So how do we do that? So the way that Chelsea did that yesterday was with, we'll just say one of these have the ball. We'll say Marquinhos has the ball. So you would see João Pedro, pretty much mid marking Neves, and then you'd see Fernandez running across that front line too. And then you'd see, obviously, these players would be a little more advanced in this scenario. You'd see Hakimi and Mendes play pretty much here. Gusto and Neto were usually the ones marking them, but worst came to worst, you'd have Cucurella marking Hakimi and then Caicedo marking Doué. But yeah, this is the way we did it. You had Palmer pretty much up here, and we'll just say this is PSG's front line. You have Fabian Ruiz making this triangle with Vitinha. So you had Cole Palmer man marking here, who actually had a really good work rate. He would play kind of in front of Vitinha, just in case, you know, they decided to pass to Beraldo. He'd be able to come through there. But you'd see Colwill pretty much man mark Dembele wherever he was. You'd see Cucurella man mark Doué. You'd see Chalobah man mark Kvaratskhelia. So you'd have James and Caicedo, you know, pretty much doubling Ruiz or doubling Vitinha. So let's say, you know, they try to get this ball to Vitinha, you'd have James and Palmer on him. And if they try to get this ball to Ruiz, you'd have Caicedo on him, and then you have Reece James able to close down because he's the free man. So, you know, what happens if they do pass this ball to Beraldo? Well, you know, you have João Pedro rotate this way, you'd have Fernandez take away, or not Ruben Neves, João Neves. And then you'd have Reece James close this way. And then obviously this is where we double Ruiz most likely. So if this ball tries to come here, Reece James closes down. If not, it's Caicedo on the back end. So yeah, this is the way we pressed, was with a, you know, 5-man or 7-man front, if you want to say this, because, you know, we did have these man markings here. Just so these balls, you know, Ronaldo couldn't spread this ball out wide to Mendes, or he couldn't, you know, switch the play to Hakimi. He was only pretty much able to either go here to Marquinhos or you know, play this little small pass to Ruben Neves right here, which, you know, again, was pretty much closed down by the entire Chelsea team, because Ruben Neves, or, you know, what PSG ended up trying to do by the end of the game was, you know, advance Ruben Neves. They did numbers forward. If it can allow me to take this off. What about the, okay, no. Nope, I just clicked the wrong button. So there we go. Can I get this X off the field? I guess not. Or these circles. Okay, so ignore these circles for now. Don't know why it's not working, but yeah, so what they tried to do at the end of the game was put Neves where Vitinha was and see if Vitinha was able to create. But, you know, they had the same problem again with Enzo just, you know, closing down on Vitinha if he ever got the ball. So it would be like this, or again, if the ball came to Marquinhos, it'd just be Fernandez rotating, Pedro rotating, Palmer playing here with James playing this way, and Caicedo taking away Ruiz. So you can see how the man marking press worked, which, you know, worked great. If the ball was played back to Donnarumma, you know, we'd play in front of Vitinha, and then we'd have whoever. So you see the players at the circle, we'd have whoever was pretty much man marked. So let's say, you know, Beraldo was the one who passed back. You'd still have Fernandez on Vitinha. You'd have João Pedro here, and then you'd have Palmer move to. So let's say João Pedro came in at this angle, which pretty much closed off Marquinhos' pass. So you'd have Palmer man mark Beraldo like this. So obviously there's an open man there, but you have João Pedro pressing from that side, which pretty much takes that away. And if Donnarumma tried to chip it over João Pedro or just play this outward, you'd have Caicedo move here. So let's say, you know, Marquinhos picks up the ball down here. You'd have Caicedo. I'm telling you, the man marking in this game was incredible. You'd have Caicedo move like that. And then obviously Ruiz would drop into this space, which you would move with Fernandez, and then João Pedro would just drop back this way, leaving the ball to go to Donnarumma. So, you know, if you wanted the ball to go to someone, you wanted it to be to Marquinhos, to Donnarumma, and Beraldo, which were all three players that Chelsea took away in this game. So that's a major reason why we won, was our press. So yeah, we'll put it, oh, never mind, maximum number of objects. Maybe it'll allow me to actually take away these things now. No, it won't. So we'll just move him out the way. So yeah, that's pretty much how Chelsea set up tactically and beat PSG, which was, I think, the most genius thing Maresca could ever do. So, credit to him for that. If you want the notes for how we beat PSG, it was, again, right hand side. And then it was also man-to-man marking, as well as slash pressing. So yeah, those were the two keys to the game for Maresca, it seemed like, which, worked very effectively. And I hope this tactical analysis, gave y'all a good idea of what Maresca actually tried to do. Because yeah, I loved what he did. He took the game to PSG. He played PSG in their own game and, ended up succeeding in that. So yeah, that's how we set up. Again, oh, one more thing. Beat them. Oh, can I take this away and then do that? Perhaps I can. Beat them with the long balls down right hand side. So those are the three keys to the game. Obviously I said right hand side, but that's because Palmer and Gusto were pretty much our two best players if you want to put everyone back into position, just to, show how we lined up in possession with small, without anyone there. This is how we did it. This is how they did it. Let's see Gusto a little back, as well as Pedro Neto. You'd have Due here, you'd have Hakimi a little back, you'd have Ruiz here, you'd have Vitinha here, and then you'd have Neves here. So this is how both teams line up in possession, and that's pretty much where I'm going to close it. Sorry, I'm just trying to get everything right. Okay, so this is how every team lined up in possession. And then to close it out, I guess we'll just see how, Chelsea got those goals. Was, again, ball being at Sanchez's hands, and then Sanchez playing these take away the notes, jeez, just so I can do this. So you'd have Sanchez, not Sancho. Sancho is not our player anymore. Playing these long balls when, obviously Mendes would advance and Kvaratskhelia was on Chalobah. So you'd have Gusto run. You'd have Palmer, who would just make these dashing runs here to the space. And, he did just that for that first goal. So when Sanchez plays these long balls, obviously Mendes is out the equation, so guess who has to come out? Beraldo does. Gusto, just takes him on, cuts inside. Palmer comes here with João Pedro right here, Fernandes right here, and Neto making this run with, obviously this man marking. But who does that leave open when, Gusto takes a shot? And Mendes does recover, but, it deflects off him. He's able to just play this ball right here, and Palmer goes right here. Other goal was pretty much the same thing, except it was not Gusto. Gusto was back in a defensive position because Nuno Mendes was right here. But Dembele dropped, which allowed Colwell to be here in this midfield to make our own triangle, actually. And then it was like this, this, and this. And the ball came to Palmer, who just had all the room to run, with Pedro Neto taking Beraldo out the equation, making João Neves move. Palmer scores. And that makes us go 2-0 up, and the third goal is pretty much the same as that. So yeah, that's how, Maresca ended up beating PSG. I do hope you enjoyed this video because it did take a while to make. And yeah, it took me another watch of the game, which I was glad to do, to see how we actually ended up beating them. But yeah, we ended up winning 3-0. We ended up lifting the Club World Cup, and now we are European champions. So, or not European champions, world champions. I'm used to saying European champions, but yeah, we are world champions. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. And I do have a Discord, so I will link that down in the description, as well as a Twitter, which will be linked there too. So, come join. That's pretty much where I'm most active if you want to, hear more about this tactical and in-depth analysis, or literally just talk to me about anything. That's where you can, get my contact, is on Twitter or on Discord. So yeah, join that. But thank y'all so much for the support on the videos recently. I really do appreciate it. But on that note, again, thank y'all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, it's Repulse, and I'm out. Peace.